That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Summer Camp, the 8th film directed by Castille Landon, which Roadside Attractions is releasing May 31st, 2024.
Wow, it's remarkable this is someone's 8th film.
Yeah.
Do I know the director's other films?
No, neither do I, but there's a series of films with the same characters and casts called After We Fell, After Ever Happy, and After Everything, which sounds like a series of Jessamine West novels.
Those films have the same cast, not the same cast as this movie.
That's correct.
What is Summer Camp about? It follows Nora, Ginny, and Mary, 3 childhood best friends who used to spend every summer at a sleepaway camp together. After years, when the opportunity to get back together for a summer camp reunion presents itself, they all seize it. What is your pull quote?
Female empowerment sure feels brain dead in this shocking waste of a sublime cast, which plays out like divine secrets of the blah blah sisterhood.
Damn. Mine. A spectacular cast list can't transcend the remedial script, grating soundtrack, and odd cinematography. Summer Camp feels like the type of film that is produced by and shown at mega churches. The cast list is so cool.
As soon as I saw the poster come up in my little emails, I was like, oh, Alfre, Woodard, and Kathy Bates.
Alfre Woodard,
yes.
Kathy Bates. I don't care for Diane Keaton, but she's a big deal.
Yeah.
Beverly D'Angelo, Nicole Richie, Joss. I was going to say Joss Stone. Josh Peck, Dennis Haysbert, Eugene Levy. Victoria Rowell's in the thing from Young and the Restless. Yeah. I mean, it's remarkable how bad this script is.
Yes, I agree. And, you know, it's coming from somebody that is quite younger than the people she's directing, whose mother is a film producer who produced another terrible Diane Keaton film called Mac and Rita.
This director's mother did that movie?
Produced it.
Oh, I didn't like that one either.
I didn't either. I don't, it's not that I dislike Diane Keaton, it's just that I dislike that she's doing the same thing over and over again as this quirky older woman that's wearing the outfit of a dandy, like forever, apparently. But
yeah, with that same damn center part. And anyway, the story is very simple. So these 3 women, Alfre Woodard, these 3 women met in summer camp when they were like young teenagers and became very close friends. And then we're told it's been 50 years since they were at camp, but they have been in each other's lives. But over the years, that's kind of waned. Alfre Woodard is a nurse. She's married. She has a nice life with her adult children. Diane Keaton she has a PhD in like chemical engineering, and she's the CEO of this company that makes like cleaning products, very successful. And Kathy Bates is a very popular and successful like self-help guru.
Ginny Moon.
Ginny Moon. So Ginny Moon damn near kidnaps her 2 friends to go to the summer camp reunion. So the bulk of the movie is them at this camp, sort of like rediscovering their friendship and learning things about each other. And it's not, you can't even call it formulaic, because if it were, it might make more sense.
It's like a cliche of a cliche.
But ultimately, we learn that Diane Keaton is a workaholic. We don't learn anything else about her. She doesn't seem to be unhappy. She doesn't seem to want a man, but she decides in the end to quit her job. Alfre Woodard has probably the most obvious issue, which is that she's in an unhappy marriage. But it's not like her husband is awful to her.
It just seems like they aren't good at communicating at all.
He takes her for granted.
Yes.
She's like a nurse, and she works a lot, and her husband seems like a baby. Their relationship reminds me of the relationship Sally Fields has in 80 for Brady.
With Bob Balaban.
Yes. And ultimately, she decides to divorce her husband and go back to medical school. And then Kathy Bates, there's no real resolve for her character, except that it's like the irony of this person who doles out all this advice to people. She ultimately realizes that she is so controlling over her friends because she's never really had her own major life events, because she was never married, didn't have kids. So we find out towards the end that this summer camp reunion, she foot the bill for all of this, apparently, $250,000, which is very confusing to me.
And there's a reveal that makes no damn sense because she invites the pretty committee,
The Mean Girls,
led
led by Beverly D'Angelo.
Like,
why would you invite these bitches? And then you also have people there you don't seem to even know.
a lot of people there.
You know what I thought? The first thing I thought is like, oh, why didn't they do something like book club? And then I think the person who produced this did produce book club.
Yes, and the composer who needs to be dragged, Tom Howell, also did the score for book club, the next chapter.
The score and the soundtrack are like, I thought I was taking crazy pills.
The score is really, the score and the writing of these women just feels really demeaning.
Yeah, like, is this what, I don't know. Whoever wrote this, like, is this what you think female empowerment for mature women looks like?
Castille Landon. This material is so below the talents of these of the entire cast, really. Well, Nicole Richie, I can't speak for
I didn't
her.
even mention Nicole Richie's in the thing. We'll get to her.
I don't know what she's doing.
Well, let's start with the positives. The only positive is I really like Kathy Bates and Alfre Woodard, and I will continue to say that Alfre Woodard should have been nominated for an Academy Award for Clemency.
Yes, she is.
And Holiday Heart's one of my favorite movies.
She is an Academy Award nominee.
She is.
Not for that film. They also previously starred together in Tyler Perry's The Family That Prays.
So the best part of the movie to me is seeing these two in a film together. And I think Kathy Bates is the only one who is able to do something with this script. It almost feels like maybe she's ad-libbing or she did some rewrites for herself or something.
She does fare the best, and I think she's the only bright little light in this, yeah.
You know the script is bad when you have Alfre Woodard and Dennis Haysbert have a scene where she opens up to him. Mm-hmm. Because she finds him appealing, he's kind to her. He happens to be a medical doctor, and that was her dream. And so she opens up to him about how she's not happy in her marriage, and that she wished she would have been a doctor, and she knew she could have been. And then she goes, wow, I've never said that to anyone. And even that moment has no impact between these two actors who are so good at that.
And Alfre does what she can in that moment, but the problem is there's no space. It's truncated. It's like all of these things that she has to get out right here in this scene, and then we zip along to the next thing. It just feels it doesn't play well.
If you told me Tommy Wiseau directed this, I would think I could believe it. Let me just go through my notes. These women, the three best friends, and then like the three mean girls. What was the name of their clique?
The Pretty Committee.
Beverly D'Angelo, Victoria Rowell, and another lady.
Maria Howell.
These ladies don't look like they ever occupied the same space and time. Like, they all look great, but they just don't look like they were in summer camp together in the same age range. And then based on...
Like Girls Trip, kind of.
Yeah, and based on the calculations, yes, like Girls Trip. If they were in camp... Well, because they first meet because Alfre Woodard is a young girl, has her period at camp and doesn't know what to do. And I believe it's Kathy Bates' character who basically comes in and shows her how to use like a sanitary napkin or whatever. But Alfre is supposed to be like 11 in that scene. So are they supposed to be in their like early to mid 60s? Because they say they haven't been in camp, like it's been 50 years. Mm-hmm. And the last time we see them at camp, they look like 12, 13-year-olds. So I'm confused by their ages.
Yeah, a little bit, for sure. But, God, it's just doing that classic for films about female friendships where they have the three women. Like, all of them have been in kind of similar film. You know, Diane Keaton in The First Wives Club, or Palms recently, Kathy Bates in Bonneville. It's like a subgenre onto itself, but there's always like the rule of three. And they're all kind of walking over each other.
A bit, yeah. So, gosh, it was a rough start because the younger versions of these women, like the scene with all the teenagers at the camp, these adolescents, I don't know that those performances were very good, and
they weren't.
It was a rough start. And in fact, at one point, I believe it's Alfre Woodard's younger self who shoots a bow and arrow and hits Dennis Haysbert's younger self, like pierces him through the abdomen. Mm-hmm. And then we just cut to like, oh, we spent every summer together. I felt like that was crazy too.
With these raggedy little girls, I'm like, well, I'll be... It's got to get better after that.
Yeah, I was very much looking forward to us meeting the adult versions of these girls. So when we first meet Kathy Bates as an adult, she's in her tour bus, and her tour bus has a big picture of her, and her tagline is "Get your shit together," which I think is funny. I think Kathy Bates looks great. I really like this copper wig they have on her.
Her new name, it reminds me of that old Liza Minnelli movie, Tell Me That You Love Me, Junie Moon.
Oh, yes. Okay, when we get to the camp, the liaison, like for...
Betsy Sodaro, who does a lot of voice work, including in the Puss in Boots film.
I'm sure this actor is great at what they do, but this character, I don't think I've been annoyed by a character this much in a minute.
It's really bad.
So grating.
Oh, it's if the score wasn't already ruinous, this certainly pushes it into the vein of something that's kind of unwatchable.
And this character, I guess, is her boss or their boss is played by Nicole Richie, and we just reviewed Nicole Richie in the remake of Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Yeah.
And I said the same thing in that review. I don't think she can act. She certainly can afford acting lessons. Wasn't she so stiff?
She's very stiff. She only really has like a couple lines, and one of them is introducing everybody that once they've gathered for the first gathering.
And she's like, welcome, welcome, welcome. Like, I think if someone hired me to do my first movie, I would act like Nicole Richie.
Or when she is gathered, the women have to turn in their phones, and Nicole Richie's part of that process. And the way she's explaining why they're doing that it's like a robot.
Yeah.
It's like it's AI.
Oh gosh. So Diane Keaton's character, so she's the CEO of this what appears to be a very successful like chemical engineering company, and we see she has an assistant who I felt had like nothing to do but should have been better utilized.
Yeah.
But at one point, like because Diane Keaton's entire personality is being a workaholic, at one point we see her sketching a molecule, and I took OChem more than once. And, like, that's not how you draw, like, you draw molecules, like, for function. Like, she was sketching, like, a full sketch pad. Who wrote this? Like, who thought that made sense?
Castille Landon. She is a workaholic in the vein of those stories about Madonna in the 80s, about how she was so serious that when she would go clubbing, if she didn't like a song, she would go to the side of the dance floor and read a book.
So stupid.
Okay, girl.
Okay, I do have to give props. So when Alfre first gets to the camp, her hair is pressed like straight, and then they go white water rafting, which was a horrible scene, and Alfre's hair gets wet. So for the rest of the movie, her hair or her wig is curly. I did appreciate that detail, that they didn't try to make it seem like somehow she like redid her hair. So that's a positive.
Sure it is.
Speaking of hair, Eugene Levy has great hair.
He always has.
He really does.
He has no chemistry with Diane Keaton, and I want somebody I need like a hook to come and pull him off the stage. Like, get away from her.
Well, that's a good segue to my next note. The sexual undertones in this film featuring mature women, who I'm assuming this film is intended for mature women, feel so demeaning and immature.
Yes.
Because, well, it's kind of a decent start, because when Kathy Bates and them first get to because when they get to their cabin, they used to sleep in a cabin called Sassafras Lodge because they were so disruptive that they had to have their own cabin. I find it hard to believe those three girls were so disruptive beyond the normal kid at camp that they had to be sequestered. But anyway, when they come back 50 years later, they're put in this camp, and of course, these women who are accustomed to luxury living end up switching to a cabin that Martha Stewart designed for Ginny Wood. And immediately, Kathy Bates pulls out some remote controlled vibrators. And I thought, okay, this is cute. Like maybe this will be like we'll have some mature dialogue about, female sexuality for a woman of a particular age. But then it just devolves into like Eugene Levy and Diane Keaton are playing like footsie almost. It's kind of embarrassing.
It is. It's like, burn this celluloid with the bras, because this is where we are.
Well, and then it's so disappointing that in the end, Diane Keaton and Eugene Levy, like, there's nothing.
They have a falling out, I guess, is the scene.
Because he accuses her of being a workaholic. And she gets mad, and he walks away.
But it's so distilled that it's like, did this happen, or did what? I'm unclear. I'm unclear of what it's saying.
Then Diane gets ready to go on like a date with Eugene Levy, kind of, and she's wearing her usual like awkward pantsuit. And Kathy Bates goes, oh no, we need to like make you look sexy. And they like give her a makeover, which just amounts to her changing her outfit. And she looks like a decrepit schoolgirl. Like what? That's
It's very Miss Havisham.
I hated that. I hated that.
It's no. What's even worse is she develops this mantra of calling herself a bad bitch.
Whoever wrote that and thought that was cute, I think that's demeaning.
Castille Landon.
Okay, Beverly D'Angelo as the head of the Mean Girls. There's a scene where, because everyone's a fan of Ginny Wood, because she's like a Dr. Phil type person. So they have like a bonfire where Ginny is basically like offering like life coaching to everyone. And so Beverly D'Angelo comes down. And Ginny doesn't like her from back in the day. But then Beverly D'Angelo kind of breaks down about how her life is bad and her friends are calling her out. It felt very like the remake of Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Like how your two stupid friends don't know that, like they really aren't your friends. It just felt so like tangential and silly. But the only fun part of that scene was that Beverly D'Angelo breaks down about feeling pressured to look a certain way. And she rips off her face tapes, which I was glad, because when we first see her close up, it's like, ooh, she looks crazy. But then we realize it's because she's wearing tapes. I'm wearing this shirt because Kathy Bates says that the opening line of her keynote speech, which should have been a clear indication that she organized this reunion, but the opening line of her keynote speech is that real eyes realize real lies, which is what my shirt says. And I don't know where that's from, but then when we actually get to the keynote speech, which I think is the only like scene in the film that has some emotional impact, she doesn't start her speech with that line. But we see that she is using cue cards, and then at a point throws the cue cards away.
And had already barked at Alfre Woodard to say, like, I'm not working.
She's not
shopping
working.
this.
So does that mean that she rewrote her speech after she said she wouldn't, to then ultimately throw that speech away to give a speech from the heart? I just think that writing is so poor.
All of the writing in this is poor.
What was the point of doing that if you weren't?
I'm wearing this shirt because I was hoping that this would turn into some strange Ingmar Bergman fugue state where the three of them would switch personalities and become a strange horror film, because that would have been good.
You know what I thought? I would have rather seen a film with just Alfre Woodard and Kathy Bates, because they have such good chemistry. Like a Thelma and Louise, or what's the one with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda where Lily wants to kill
they're killing
Jane's husband?
Yeah, that came out the same year as the last book club movie.
I feel like Kathy Bates and Alfre Woodard could do it, but if it were like rated R and like a gritty, dark
something behavior, something strange. Anyway,
I'll put the thing up.
Because we reviewed it. But.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's a scene where Alfre's character, okay, so Diane's character is, I think, underdeveloped, and then Alfre's character doesn't make sense to me because she's married to this milquetoast man who she can't speak up to, and she seems so like she lacks all confidence. The problem with that is the opening scene when we meet Alfre as an adult, she appears to be like an RN in an emergency room. And this woman is like taking control in an emergent situation, resuscitating a patient while talking on her iWatch or Apple Watch. So it's like she's clearly confident and in control.
Yes.
But then the entire film, she's just so scared to speak up about anything.
And that could make sense.
It would have made sense to me
if he was abusive in some way, or we could see that he's kind of whittled her down in their private lives to make her believe that she's lesser than. But
we meet him and he seems, I wouldn't want to be married to him, but it's not because he's a monster. He's just kind of like, he doesn't see her. He's taken for granted that she's just going to always be there for him. He doesn't seem like someone who can't be spoken to. And then she finally does tell him, listen, I haven't been happy in a long time. I don't ever ask to do anything. I want to be here, because he shows up at the camp because she doesn't call him every morning like she's supposed to. So he gets worried. So it's like, well, that's not unreasonable that your husband didn't know you were leaving. You don't pick up the phone, so he goes to find you to see you're okay. And then she tells him, and he goes, okay, fine, enjoy your stay. I'll come back on Sunday to pick you up. So it seemed like a big leap for her in the end to be like, I'm divorcing my husband and going back to medical school. And also, are you trying to be the oldest living medical student in rotations? Like, it doesn't even make sense what she's trying to do.
None of it makes sense. Diane Keaton wandering around in these outfits with like lots of these wide-brimmed hats she reminded me of like some colonialist in the last outpost in Central America.
But anyway, getting back to Alfre's character, something she enjoyed doing was riding horses. So we see that there's a scene where she rides a horse, which is clearly, just like the white water rafting, it's all stunt doubles. But we see this person who's not Alfre Woodard on a horse, not well shot. And then, oh gosh, Josh Peck is in the movie, which we'll get back to, but he's supposed to be a dunce, right?
He's supposed to be a kind spirit.
But we'll get back to him. But anyway, his dumbass, while Alfre's riding the horse and in full control of this horse, he jumps in front of it like, no, you're going too fast. And then she flies into the dirt. But it's shot so poorly. And it's like a woman of that age. I mean, Madonna broke a damn hip falling off the horse. And this lady flies and like plunges into the mud. And then she just gets up like, let's go to dinner.
Get some Boniva.
That's crazy. But let's talk about Josh Peck.
Josh Peck looks like he looks like if Mr. Rogers was having a Benjamin Button syndrome experience.
Wow, true. But his character's supposed to be like an idiot with a heart of gold. And they show that he's incompetent, like he can't do anything right. Which makes me think, why do they even bring him back every summer?
And one of the only 3 staff members.
Like he breaks stuff, he doesn't know how to do stuff, he falls over people, trips on people. And what was so disappointing to me is that in the end, he sees Kathy Bates out in like the woods reciting her speech, clearly upset. And he's trying to talk to her and he sounds very smart, very insightful. And she says, you're not smart enough to psychoanalyze me. And then he tells her, you really hurt my feelings. And then she had like reprimanded him for being like, why are you cleaning up deer poop in the woods? Like it's good fertilizer. And after he says, you hurt my feelings for basically calling me stupid, he's like, oh, and by the way, deer poop has E. coli, which is not safe for the kids. So yeah, we do need to pick it up. So 2 things. Number 1, what was the point of making Kathy Bates' character seem like an asshole? Because up to that point, she seemed like a nice, fun person.
Sure.
So it took away from that character. Then I fully thought in the end that Kathy Bates was going to redeem herself because we find out that his character didn't get to finish college. And Kathy Bates is rich. She just paid $250,000 to do the stupid summer camp reunion. I was fully expecting her to be like, you know what? I'm going to pay for you to go back to college because I was a bitch to you.
Or at least say something.
Or say sorry.
Or, you know, like,
none of the above.
Even Oprah gave that kid a phone.
A new iPhone after she called his phone raggedy. Like, I was so disappointed that they made Kathy Bates' character seem like not a nice person.
Or carry through that epiphany to be like, oh, I lash out because I'm actually very lonely and unhappy, and let's bring all this...
Yeah, they don't do that.
No.
And then right after that scene, we see that Alfre Woodard and Diane Keaton are contemplating, are we the assholes? Because she really is a good friend, and we don't even remember her birthday. So it's like the movie should have been about these 3 friends and how their relationship devolved. This doesn't work as a comedy well enough, so I almost feel like I wish it would have been a serious drama about these 3 mature women who are, you know, disconnected and are reuniting and also discovering like a second chapter or a third, fourth chapter in their lives. But I was left feeling like nothing. What did these women learn? The choices they made don't make any damn sense. Diane Keaton says, I'm quitting my job as they're on a zip line. You're the CEO. You don't quit your job. You set up a plan to exit. You have someone you mentor or find to take over. Diane Keaton as a PhD in chemical engineering felt about as believable as J-Lo as a brilliant analyst in Atlas.
Yes.
It just feels so stupid.
That has designed a force field around the Earth. Yeah. Something like, I don't know, just simple and meaningful in a moment like that would be like, I think I'm ready to enjoy my life. You know, like... something.
They get into a pillow fight.
There's a food fight.
There's a senior food fight that is so cringy. It just felt like so pointless. Like someone literally wrote in food fight and that was the only line in the script. And then there's just all these people like throwing spaghetti. Every
moment is cliche, even with Eugene Levy taking Diane Keaton by the hand and going to the bowels of the cafeteria kitchen. It's complicated with Steve Martin and Meryl Streep making the croissant. This just feels like somebody that isn't able to speak to these people's experiences that she's writing, which is fine, but I don't know, somewhere along the way, she didn't ask for anybody's help in kind of fleshing these characters out, which needed to happen.
The only moment that made me feel anything was the keynote speech at the end, because Kathy Bates is upset because Diane Keaton and Alfre Woodard didn't show up to the speech because they had gotten into a fight the day before. And she opens the speech kind of upset and stumbling, and some character, the one who started the food fight, he yells, "Get your shit together," which is her tagline. And she goes, "I don't know if that's at me or with me." Mm-hmm. And then she goes, "I think I just realized that that's a very aggressive thing to say to someone who may not be feeling their best."
Whom are maybe trying their best.
Or trying to. And then she continues with her speech, and it was very emotional. And I thought Kathy Bates did a fabulous job in that performance of that moment. And it just felt like, God, this really should have been about these three women and how important their friendships are as they get old. You know, women of a certain age who maybe Diane Keaton's husband has died. Alfre Woodard's husband is disconnected from her. Kathy Bates is not even married. Like, how important these friendships are. But I didn't get that from watching this.
I didn't either. And then, God, they shelled out a lot of money for ZZ Top and Creedence Clearwater Revival. And I don't know.
The other thing that Kathy's character says that I feel like the film, like this horrible script glosses over, is after the keynote speech, they go to bed and they're all sort of like ruminating on this thing, and Kathy feels pensive and she says, "Hey, we can just leave early because clearly this trip was a bust." But then her friends are like, "No, we have one more day, let's enjoy it." And then Kathy Bates basically says that, "I think I'm this way because I've never had my own life events. I was never married, never had kids, never went to graduations. So I think that me doing this was like me trying to create a life event." And that was very powerful. And it just glosses right over it to cut to the next scene. We're ziplining with Josh Peck, and everything's so oddly shot. And
it's almost like it gets to the moment where it's like, oh, that would be the best place to begin.
Yes.
This film is where we are examining, experiences of women of a certain age who have or have not had certain things that are supposed to define their worth.
Yeah, actually, that would have been a good start, is that we start with her saying that I've never had a life event, let's make one. And through the process realizes that she's actually had a very meaningful life. She just didn't realize it because she blah, blah, blah.
Because the rest of the world has dictated that those things don't count or matter.
Then in the ending, end credits, there are a bunch of bloopers. And then I thought, God, I probably would, the bloopers were funnier. I would have rather just watched 90 minutes of those.
Well, yeah, because then you get to see some probably ad-libbing. And Diane Keaton actually seemed loose. And
yeah, Diane Keaton didn't seem as neurotic and zany. Because her character is pretty sad throughout the movie, so we see her laughing. And then Kathy Bates is by far the funniest part of the movie. Mm-hmm. And there's a moment in the bloopers where I don't know what she's trying to say, but she says, "I did a series of hot takes on weaponized incontinence." And for some reason, the two words weaponized incontinence together, I think is so funny.
Yeah, she was having trouble with it, but it was cute. It was sweet.
Sorry to these people. I'm sure they had a good time making the movie. I did not have a good time watching it. What would you give Summer Camp?
1, and that's squeak into that score because Kathy Bates.
Yeah, this script is, it's blasphemous to have some of this cast and have such a horrible script. I would give it 1 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.